So guys, the new record was ready to be released a little over a year ago. And then things changed and you decided to put it on ice, as I think you've said in one interview. So why now? Why is it ready to come out now?
I don't think it was put on ice. It was just, you know, the world changed. There was Brexit, there was Donald Trump's election, and we just wanted to kind of see what was going to happen in the world. As kind of artists, it was important to us see what context our songs were going to come out in. And we made a few changes, but not really very many. So we're ready to come with it now.
Yeah, there was a sort of both a political apocalypse and a personal one. I think I personally wanted to go a little deeper into the songwriting, not just to respond to what Adam is saying with regards to the madness that had entered the world with Donald Trump trampling all over the American dream and everyone else's dream, but just wanted to go deeper. And you ask yourself the question, why would anybody need another U2 album? I mean, there's loads of them out there. So for me, I had to make it very personal. And so you'll see when it comes out, there's a lot of the songs are letters to both our audience, to our, my sons and daughters. There's a letter to America called American Soul, which deals with the problem.
I've listened to it just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
You've always make reference to your roots. Even in an interview we did a few years ago, you said that you guys keep you're faithful to your punk rock roots, so to speak. But how do you? That's something that always crossed my mind. How do you reconcile being truthful to your punk rock roots with the whole grandiosity of the screens, of the super high def things, and the very detailed stage sets?
We do grandiose quite well.
I think it's intent. You know, if there's an emotional through line, as opposed to just junk on stage, that's what we go for.
But see, that's it. You can be in a club watching a band, and they may be just a few feet in front of you, and feel a long way from that band. It's not physical proximity. It's emotional connection. And so whether we're playing a stadium or a club, it's the same emotional connection. And we use the technology to do what we used to do in our early days. We used that very physical relationship, but the attempt was to cross the boundary from stage to audience. Now we use technology a lot to do with that. And then the truthfulness of the text, emotion, hopefully, in the performance.
We were just talking about the interview you guys gave to Zane Lowe, which is a famous British radio DJ, and you made reference to the fact that in Joshua Tree, you think that, you might remember that too, Adam, that many of the lyrics felt unfinished to you. Over all these years, some songs could have been better written. Going back to those songs, is that a way for you to finish them?
That's a really excellent question. Poets often do revised work. They put out a revised set of poetry from the past. But singers often don't. Although I remember with Bob Dylan once, we were playing together on the same bill. He'd come down to see us play, and we must have talked him into going on stage. Or actually, no, it was his show. And he asked me on stage to sing Blowing in the Wind. And I did the worst version. I couldn't remember the lyrics. I improvised. And I said, "I'm so sorry, Bob." And he said, "I change them all the time."
Yeah, he does.
And
he barely sings them.
Well, it's like a jazz man. It's an improvisational thing. So the work, sometimes I'm reverent to the text, and sometimes the band are reverent to the arrangement. But sometimes it's okay to to move forward and try a new take on the lyrics.
So you think that maybe after this tour, you can finally put Joshua Tree to rest and say, now we finally know how to play this, and now I know how to finally sing this.
No, I think we might be done. I don't. But then again, the other night, I don't remember if it was Larry or Edge was saying, but this is a thing, the Joshua Tree. It's like Pink Floyd's The Wall. It's a show. It's like, we could do it again. I was thinking, really? And because it has been quite a ride for us, and we have enjoyed it, and it's hard to say goodbye to it. And we're saying goodbye to it in Brazil. This is our last. This is our swan song, and that brings out strange feelings. We had never played before the album in order, and we will never play it again. Is the plan so far, unless we change it.
Guys, talking about the new record, I know it's coming out on every kind of possible platforms, coming out on streaming, probably on CD, on vinyl. If it were for you guys to choose, on what platform would you like your new album to be enjoyed?
Oh, vinyl, probably.
Vinyl.
I mean,
I'd love to see people walking around with the vinyl.
You can't really bring the vinyl into the subway, but there's something about the ceremony of vinyl and the psychoacoustic effects of putting a needle in the groove and the way it makes you feel. Vinyl, we've gone to a lot of trouble on the vinyl package for this. It's very, very special. We have it. Even the vinyl is a special color. I won't tell you too much more.
But if people can't get the vinyl, digital is fine.
That's right. Yeah, you just want to get the music where people are. That's the other thing.
Guys, I have to ask some questions about having to do with relationship, you two and Brazil. Just before we started shooting, you were telling me that São Paulo is the only city where you're doing 4 nights, and because there was so many people who wanted to go see your concert. And when you were recently in Argentina and you met with the president there, President Macri, you made reference to an activist that was Maldonado, who had disappeared and hasn't been found yet. I was going to ask you, how do you get updated on the current political situation of the country you're in, and what do you know about what has been going on in Brazil?
Well, I'm co-founded this group called the One Campaign, and it fights extreme poverty wherever we find it. A lot of times it's based in Africa, but we have members all over the world, and we have nearly 100,000 members here in Brazil. And so from that organization, I receive constant information about what's happening. So for instance, with Brazil, I was very interested to find out how to tackle the corruption problem. And corruption is everywhere. It's not just in Brazil. You have some serious problems here because you are a very rich country. And they call it the resource curse, not the resource blessing. It's like when you've oil and gas and all these minerals, then you bring all the bad guys come out. In Africa, they have a proverb, pray that we do not discover oil, because it brings all the bad guys out. But just as it is a disease, corruption, that kills more kids than malaria, there's a cure. And the cure is transparency. You can vaccinate by transparency. And what do I mean by transparency? When you open government, when you let people see, through to the numbers, in your mining sector, in the extractive industry, which is a serious part, Brazil has still not signed up to the publish what you pay idea, so that we can find out how much was paid for each mining project. So there's things you can do better. But I also want to compliment Brazil, because you've done some incredible things. You fought against HIV/AIDS better than anybody. You brought in generics from a company called Cipla in India, broke the law, broke international law in putting your people first, making it a human right to get access to antiretroviral drugs. Even in the last 10 years, and some terrible things have happened in your country, you deserve better politicians. The people, these extraordinary people, deserve better politicians for sure. But even in those 10 years, childhood mortality, which is the bellwether for everything, has halved. That's, I think, if I can remember, it's 36 kids in 1,000 used to die at birth in 2000. Now it's 16. That is something to punch the air about. So I know you're beating yourself up at the moment, and you'll fix it and you'll sort out these scandals, but the people are so much more powerful than the people in power. The power of the people is so much stronger than the people in power.
Thank you. And talking about powerful people, you always said that, I remember you telling me this in one interview, that you would sit down with anyone to push forward the causes that you believe in. And you said, well, some people even say that I've already sat down with the devil. That was right after, I think, you had dinner with George Bush or something like that.
Right.
Would you sit down with Donald Trump if you thought the cause was worthwhile?
I think we might have to draw the line at Donald Trump.
Right.
Maybe. If I really believed him when he spoke, then of course you would engage. But I think he's made a hostile takeover of his own party. Mm-hmm. I've really many close friends in the Republican Party and the GOP in the United States, and I believe them when they speak. I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people had strong feelings about George Bush, but I felt we could work with him, and we did. And, you know, the largest health intervention in the history of medicine was led by the United States, by George Bush. We worked together, we got places. Mm-hmm. So I would not be too pious about who you sit down with. But he, you know, and it's personal because of the way he talked about protesters. He said, you know, in the old days we used to smack that guy, we used to, you know, give him a punch, which was an invitation to violence for protesters. I was a born protester. Mm-hmm. He's a born protester. Yeah. So this was an attack on us personally. And there are probably other things that you feel strongly about.
Well, I just feel you can't trust him, and he's no understanding of democracy. I mean, clearly no understanding of democracy.